In this second part of the landscape demo, I'm going to be working into the middle ground. And the middle ground is much trickier than the background. I used a variety of references here, a Beardstadt, a Cole again, um, amongst just some making things up. I didn't find myself finding any single reference image that worked really well, which meant for me a great deal of trial and error over the course of the painting, as you're going to see. Here I'm starting to work in some stronger darks, but those are going to change and change and change again. I'm working in some cliffs, some rocky sort of surfaces. I'm trying to keep in mind where the light source is coming from. I'm putting in more darks and more lights. I'm reducing those darks and lights. This is a pattern you're going to see me do again and again as I'm trying to get them just the amount of right of contrast and texture and saturation. Remember, those are the elements that are going to cause this middle ground to stand out in front of the background. I want some pretty significant space between that background and the middle ground here on the right hand side. There's a little suggestion of water that I'll be working in more as I move along. My idea being the water is going to move around to the right and left of this kind of long horizontal composition. I found a reference painting by Frederick Church, one of the great Hudson River School landscape painters from the United States of 19th century, painting this New England landscape with this sort of understated waterfall that has a nice light on it, and I think that it might work here over on the left. This is going to be a focal point, I've decided. Not a big Niagara Falls kind of a thing, nothing too dramatic, just a little waterfall. But I still want to draw the eye to it, so I'm going to be working in a great deal of details at a smaller scale, and then I'll be dinking around and dinking around with these little details. I often feel that these focal points are difficult in that I don't want to make them stand out too much, but I also want to get the right amount of believability to have more visual information so that these aren't quite as vague as the stuff that I have been doing here so far. I've been working with this patterning that is a good strategy, I think, for building space again in layers of working lights on tops of darks and darks on tops of lights. So I don't necessarily need to always have an equal amount of contrast in each part of the layer as I'm moving down the picture plane, or you could say also more forward in space as I move into the middle ground. For example, in this case, I've decided to keep more of the contrast, more of the focal points off on the right and left hand side of the picture. And so this area here in the middle is going to be backlit, and therefore the area in shadow is going to be more understated. And I'm using a lot of the middle tones of the background in conjunction with some stronger darks to be able to construct a sense of form that doesn't have a great deal to draw your eye. Not a lot of detail is going to be needed. I'm going to be doing this again on the foreground to some extent as I work in the right and left hand corners of the picture. Here's I'm finishing up my middle ground. I'm really being careful, but also having fun with these edges, these little bits of dark that define the more horizontal orientation of landscape versus those vertical parts. Each one of these that I put in has this kind of sense of finishing. It lays out where that ground is in space. Each little mark as it moves down or up underneath the landmass makes a significant distance in space. So have fun with your middle grounds. I think you might find this to be the more challenging part of the painting. And then next, we'll be doing the foreground. Have fun.